Please welcome our superhero sponsor, InsightWorks, and their super president, Mark Hamblin. Today, Mark will be saving the day by presenting end-to-end solutions for retailers and distributors using D365 BC. Stick around after Mark's session for a live Q&A with a real-life superhero.
Hi everyone, this is Mark Hamblin here with InsightWorks at Virtual DynamicsCon. And today we're going to go through end-to-end solutions for retailers and distributors using Business Central or NAV, but we're going to focus on Business Central today. So what we're going to do today is, I'll walk you through a little bit of an overview, and then we're going to jump in and have a look at, some of the solutions that InsightWorks offers. So we'll start off with a little bit about InsightWorks. We've been around for about 10 years now. And we work globally through our reseller partners. So if you have questions about this, we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the session here. But if you do have additional questions, talk to your existing NAV or Business Central partner. They'll be able to help you out with, quotes and all sorts of things like that. Now, we focus mostly in manufacturing and distribution, and some of the solutions I'm going to show you here actually, are older than 10 years old. They were built many, many years ago. And we have a very wide, install base, again, globally. So hang out until the end of the session. I'll help you out with any Q&A you have, or contact your partner and they'll be able to help you out. All right. Now, that's kind of who we are. This is what we do. So we really have solutions from start to finish. Your entire supply chain, we can handle everything from the initial procurement and planning all the way out to, the final management, reporting, and everything else. Now, what we're going to focus on today, though, is just a few of the solutions, right? We're going to focus really on entering sales orders and fulfilling them and those sorts of things. So we're going to focus on the inventory management, barcoding, things like that, a little bit on order entry, and a bit on the warehouse management solutions. We're also going to go through the shipping integration that you can get inside Business Central and So what solutions do we have that fulfill those specific criteria? Well, what you see there on the screen, those are all of our solutions that we have available. Now, what we're going to focus on today is just a small subset of those. So really, Dynamic Ship, Counter Sales, WMS Express, and a few of the other ones. If we get time, we'll look at the configurator, but that's not our primary goal today. So if you have questions about any of these other products that you see on the screen here that are grayed out or not, go to our website, check them out, talk to your partner about them, and those sorts of things. The one thing I will mention is down at the bottom there, those, that bottom row, those are all Business Central apps for the cloud. So most of these applications will work with NAV or Business Central, but that bottom row there, WMS Express, the Scheduler, PrintNote, Barcode Generator, Doc Extender, those are free applications available for Business Central. You go to AppSource, you install them, and there's no registration or anything like that required, and they just work and you can use them. So we'll be showing off a few of those today as well. Okay, but any other questions, I'll give you some links at the end, and again, check out the website and those sorts of things. All right, so with that, we're going to jump right in and actually have a look at how some of these things work. All right, so I'm going to start out. We're going to jump in here. So for that, standard Business Central clearly has the ability to do order entry and everything else. But what we do is we come in with a product called Counter Sales. And really what Counter Sales does is it improves the capability of Business Central for order entry, simplifies the order entry, either from internal sales reps that are on the phone talking to people and entering orders, but more importantly, from people doing point of sale operations. So this isn't necessarily your standard retail type point of sale. This is for, an order desk or a trade desk where somebody's going to come up and they're going to need a little bit more information about what they're buying or what they're looking for and things like that. And you're going to have a professional behind the counter that walks them through that. And for that, you're going to need all the capabilities really within Business Central, but you don't want the complexity that some of those things provide, right? If a customer walks up and you need to sell them something quickly, you're going to want a simplified mechanism to do that. So that's what Counter Sales does. So what you see on the screen here, this is a role center for the Counter Sales dashboard, and Counter Sales is built into Business Central or NAV so that you get all the power of Business Central, like you can look up purchase orders, sales history, all those sorts of things while you're doing your point of sale operations. And there's a few ways we can use it. We can just create a brand new sales order, counter sales order, and start right from there and enter it very similarly to what you would do in Business Central. Or you can use a take order wizard. So with that, a customer will come in and, they'll walk up to the counter and you'll say, hey, what's your phone number? And in there, you can just enter, the phone number of the particular customer, and it'll come in and it'll find, a list of the customers with that phone number. And you say, well, you're not Jimmy or Gary. What can you do? Well, a couple of things. We can start with just a cash sale. So I could just choose a cash customer in here, or I could bring that customer into the system so that we can actually track them for marketing purposes and warranty purposes and everything else. So I can just come in and say new contact. And what it'll allow me to do is create a new cash customer. In other words, we're selling it to them as if they're a cash customer, but we're capturing their email address and their phone number and their name and all of those sorts of things. So that, again, we have a customer list, a record of all those customers that we can market to, or if they return things, we have their information. All of those sorts of things we capture. So we're not actually creating a new customer within Business Central. We're just capturing this customer information as part of a cash sale transaction. We can also create a new account customer. And the new account customer, what that does is it actually creates a brand new customer record within Business Central. And most people won't be doing that, but we do have that ability. And then finally, if I've chosen a company here, somebody says, I'm Joe from Acme, and we can't find Joe listed under, the Acme company, I can create Joe as a contact underneath Acme so that when, there's an invoice dispute or whatever from Acme, I can say, oh, Joe came in and bought that. Right. So at any rate, we can come in here and very easily, I'll just show you what happens if I do this new cash customer. It's very simple. We enter some very basic information, whatever the customer is willing to give us. And again, then we can track that customer through everything, deposits, all of those sorts of things. So at any rate, I'm just going to choose Jimmy here just for fun. I'm going to do that. And what it does as soon as I choose Jimmy is it starts me out in a sales order. And now I can just start entering anything that he wants to buy. Now we have a couple of options here. The other thing I could have done is instead of coming to a standard sales order, if Jimmy came up to the counter and dropped off, 5 cans of something that he wants to buy or whatever, I can simply scan those in. So instead of, using these, standard data entry things within Business Central, I can simply just scan barcodes to bring that in. So an example of that is this quick scan. So it could have opened to the quick scan immediately, or I can just say, oh yeah, he's dropping 3 things off on the counter that he wants to buy. And from here, I can just scan barcodes to bring those items into the order. So I'll just, fake scan a barcode here. If I scan a barcode, and really what you would use is a scanner, something like this, right? A little USB scanner that you see in retail all the time that I can go ahead and use to scan barcodes. So as an example, I've got a sheet of barcodes, and we'll talk about how you can generate these barcodes on your own. But here's a sheet of barcodes. If it came up and he wanted to buy it, I would scan that barcode. You'll notice it does show me the picture of that item that I just scanned. It brings it onto the order and all of those sorts of things, and we're good. It's very easy, right? So drop off a few things, scan a bunch of barcodes. I've built up my sales order, and then I can go ahead and take payment or whatever I need to do. Okay. I'm going to just exit out of this and go back to the main order where I've scanned in those 2 items and talk about a few things that we can do within the order itself. So number 1, let's talk about Doc Extender. So Doc Extender shows up here, and Doc Extender is one of those free tools I mentioned. And that simply lets you drag and drop documents right into Business Central, and it'll store those in Business Central or in SharePoint. So that's really nice, right? If customer comes in and they give me a PO or something like that, or email me a PO, I can scan that in or drag it in from my email, drop it in there, and then I've got all the documentation I need for this. And that can be used in finance and receiving, shipping, whatever the heck you want to do. So for example, on receiving, if you're using our Warehouse Insight product, I could take a bunch of photos of damaged product and it'll automatically upload and attach through Doc Extender into Business Central or Nav. So pretty slick stuff. Anyway, so that's the Doc Extender thing. Now, if I move over to the details side, I've got a few things that it shows me here, right? So, on these items that I brought in, I can see other locations that may have those items as well. So I may not have stock of this particular item. I can see maybe some of the other warehouses do have stock. So this is handy in a retail environment, or if you've got a distribution center and stores, you can very easily go in there and see what's available in other locations and potentially bring them in or whatever else. We've got related items here, which allows me to list a number of items for upselling. If I'm buying this loudspeaker, maybe, well, right there. As soon as I buy that loudspeaker, it's suggesting, hey, cables are a related item. Do you want to buy cables too? And if I do, I can come in there and add that to the order immediately. So it's a good, it's good for substitution. So you can say, oh yeah, we didn't have any of this particular item in stock. Here's a bunch of substitutions that I could potentially use, or just as easily used for upselling type scenarios. Now, what I did there, and of course, so we've got all the other details that are available within Business Central, so I can look at special pricing, sales history, all of those kinds of things, very easily right from here. So it's not your dumb point of sale system where all you can do is scan items. I can go in there and do a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the things that we typically see, in a sort of professional point of sale environment, a counter sales environment, is the fact that people will walk in and they say, I'm looking for this widget. What do you got? And I'll have to enter it onto the order. Or I'll have to go look to see what's available for that particular thing that the customer is looking for. So standard Business Central, it's great, right? I come in here and somebody says, I'm looking for a front wheel. So I start typing in what they're looking for. And hey, I got front wheel and a bunch of stuff in there, right? But I might have hundreds of things in there that, but that's a very limited search, right? So if I wanted to type in front wheel here, that's going to get me limited, results. It's going to give me 2 items, right? It makes sense. I got front wheel and I got a handbrake for front wheel. Well, in the real world, it doesn't work like that. People don't enter descriptions rationally or consistently. So what we need to be able to do is have a more advanced search capability within the system to find things. And guess what? We have that. So if I open up our enhanced item search, what this allows me to do is search by description or item number or pretty much anything we like. So the vendor item number, any cross references, I can search by serial numbers or lot numbers. So, somebody drops something off and I can read the serial number, but I don't know which item number it is. I can type that in and can find it. All sorts of good stuff there. But the most important thing we find for counter sales type situations is somebody's going to come in and say, I need a 1-inch bolt or I need a front wheel or whatever. And we're going to come in and type that in. So I'm just going to type in front wheel again. And what happens when I do that, you'll notice I've got a bunch more results than I did when I just used the standard Business Central capabilities. Because what it does is it looks for those 2 words anywhere within that description. So I've got wheel, comma, front. I've got, handbrake, front wheel. I've got all of that kind of stuff that comes in. And you might think, well, Business Central basically does that. But it doesn't really. To do that same kind of search within Business Central, I'd have to use a bunch of wildcards and, an OR symbol or an AND symbol, all sorts of stuff. So this really simplifies it from, an end user's perspective. They just type in what they want, it finds it, and you're good. And then I can add that to the order and keep going, right? So pretty simple. It seems basic, but it's very important, and it's something that really you need if you're doing these types of order entries where people are phoning up and say, I need a 1-inch bolt, and it might be in there as bolt, comma, 1 inch, or 1-inch bolt, or whatever it happens to be. Now, the other thing I'll mention on here is I can also filter by location. So if I use mine, that includes all the locations that I've set up to be able to see. So if I back out of this, up here it shows me for 3 locations what additional availability there is. If I open this up, that's what this references, those 3 locations. So I can set up my own locations that I look at, but I can choose any other location to look at. And what that does is these values here, the quantity on purchase order, what I have on hand, the quantity on sales orders, all of those sorts of things are based on this location. Right? So now I know for my location, this is what I have, but I could look at other locations as well from here as well. Okay. So that's the advanced search capability. It's very handy. It's almost a must-have. You need that if you're doing any sort of order entry where you're not just typing in part numbers or item numbers. Now, a couple other things on here. Let's say it comes in and I tell the customer, oh, it's $88, and they say that's crazy. Fred across the street's got them for $70. I can come in here and override that price, right? Fairly straightforward. But with counter sales, what it does is it can log that price change, and it can force a price override as well. So what that means is, it's going to prevent me from changing this price unless I have an override code. I do have an override code, so it doesn't prompt me. If I didn't, manager would come over, type in their code to allow me to make this change. And then I can also log why I've made that change. So in this case, I want to do a price match, and I can list who had the better price or whatever you like. So that type of logging makes it very handy to figure out, is your pricing right? Is it wrong? Why are you losing sales and things like that? And speaking of losing sales, so let's say I do match it for $70, and then I say, oh yeah, you know what? We don't actually have that guy in stock. And he gets all huffy and walks out the door. Hopefully not, but let's say he did that. Well, instead of just deleting that line and getting rid of it, I can also go in there and log that lost sale and indicate why. So I can say create the lost sale, and I could have this just on a delete key or something like that. And what that allows me to do is, again, specify a reason code for why we're losing those sales. And that can help figure out, why customers are coming in and leaving without buying, right? And as soon as I do that, it can delete that line and away we go. So that's, those are some of the capabilities that we have. So far we have the ability to scan the barcodes. We have the ability to, do the fancy search. We have all the standard, Business Central capabilities. I can come in here, look at history, all those sorts of things. All that is standard. Now let's talk a little bit about, the customer wants all this stuff. He wants to pay for it. Well, what we have is we have the ability to take deposits and take payments. So on this particular one, we actually know we don't have enough stock of this. We're down into the negatives, as a matter of fact, for that particular item. So what I might want to do is I might want to actually come in and take a deposit on this item so that I get a special order for the customer. So we do have that ability. Now, Business Central has something called prepaid invoices and things like that. It has limitations, especially in North America with the North American taxation and things like that. What this allows me to do is come in and say, yeah, he's going to give me, $10 cash as a deposit. And then he's also going to give me, MasterCard for $5 just for fun. And, we'll talk about the credit card stuff in a sec. And I can take that deposit and store that with this. Now, remember, this is a cash sale customer. I can still take deposits for cash sale customers. And it logs it all the way through, so I can go in and look at Jimmy Boy, and I can find what deposits he has and all of those sorts of things. It's all tracked very well. I can also do layaways. So if I come in here and post this deposit, I could come back, 2 weeks later, and he adds more deposit and things like that. So we can continue to take deposits until we're done. Right? I'm not going to take a deposit on this one too easy. And then when he goes to pay, I simply come in and say, okay, yeah, he's ready to pay. So I hit the posting, and what it's going to do is ask me, okay, how is this customer paying for it? And there's a number of things we can do here as far as payments go. We can do order rounding. So, if you always round up to the nearest nickel or something like that, we can set that up. But in here, what I'm going to do is come in and say, you know what, he's paying me again. Maybe he's paying me $15 cash, $15 cash. And then he's paying me, MasterCard or Visa or whatever it happens to be for the other $6. You notice down here, it keeps track of what he still owes. Now let's talk about credit cards for a second, because what they do, for the most part, what most of the customers do is they have the terminal from the bank, and they're going to run their credit card through that terminal, and they're just going to enter that authorization number right in the system. Okay, and they're not going to process the credit cards through Business Central. If you want to do that, that's great. You can process the credit cards for Business Central, but you need a specific credit card processing add-on. We don't actually do the credit card processing within Counter Sales, but you can add it in if you like. So in my case, swipe the terminal thing, I get the authorization number, type in the last 4 digits or whatever you want, and we're done, and I hit OK, and that's going to post this order, and away we go, and we've shipped it. We've taken multiple payment methods. We can give change, right? So if it's cash, we can give calculate what the change is that we need to provide. All of those sort of standard things that we need for point of sale right within Business Central. Okay, but let's say, I'm not going to do this. He's not going to pay for it. What I'm going to do is this is actually going out, and I'm going to end up shipping these products out to a specific customer, right? So I'm just going to reopen this thing, and I'm going to go in, and we're going to, I'm going to add another item on here for fun, and we're going to do a quantity of 10 or whatever it happens to be. And this is a phone order. Somebody's phoned up and has asked me to ship this out, and that's what I'm going to do. if I want to see all the shipping information, it's kind of neat because we just go in here, hit shipping details, and I can override any of the shipping information. And if it's mostly counter sales, I never need to see this tab. I can just hide that and focus on the sales entry. But we're going to build this thing up, and this is my counter sales order here, 14. And this is actually going to go out to the warehouse to be shipped, okay? And we have a whole bunch of capabilities around warehousing. So if you're using warehouse documents within Nav or Business Central, we can deal with that. But really all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to release this order, and now it's available for the warehouse to go and deal with. Okay, well, great. How does the warehouse deal with that? Well, they use a handheld scanner. So what you see here on the screen is this little guy. So if you look at the, covering my beautiful face here, this little MemorK device. So there's a whole bunch of different devices that you can use, right? So this is a standard, big warehouse device, or this little guy here, lots of different options. But this thing here comes preloaded with the software, and you scan a couple barcodes and you connect it up to Business Central within seconds, really, and you can start using it. So what you see on the screen there, that's what this thing is, right? So as I'm touching this screen, you see the little circle on the other screen. That's my finger touching it. And this is what we're going to use in the warehouse to fulfill this order. Now, this is WMS Express. We also have Warehouse Insight, which has a whole bunch more capabilities. But for WMS Express, it's free. Go install it off AppSource, run it, and you're up and running in no time. Now, what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to go into shipping on this particular device because I'm going to ship that order. And you'll notice there on the screen, on my handheld, is that, number 14, counter sale order number 14. So I'm just going to choose that. And you don't actually have to touch the screen. I can just use the arrow keys, go down to number 14 here, hit enter, and I open up that order that I need to ship. And there's the stuff I need to ship. So it's telling me how many I've, picked so far. And down at the bottom, it tells me how many I'm supposed to. Actually, I lied. I've already done this once before. So what we're going to do, because of the way I had things set up, we're going to come in here and we're going to change this a little bit. And we're going to back up. And we're going to go back into that order number 14. The way I have it set up in counter sales, I completely forgot, is we default in this quantity to ship because, hey, it's cash sale. I'm just going to ship everything. I'm going to sell it right there. If we want it shipped from the handheld, this would come in blank by default. And then what we're going to do, I'll just give it a second to update in the Business Central world there. And we come in, and here on the handheld, it's telling me what I actually need to pick for this particular order. I need to pick one of these LS2s, and I need to pick 10 of these LS120s. Well, what do? We simply go out to the warehouse. We find those products. If you're running bins, so if you have bins enabled, you would see the bin code here that you need to select the item from, and you'd scan the bin and item. In my case, I don't have bins enabled, so I'm just going to go out, find that product. I'm going to scan the barcode. So we'll start maybe with the LS120. I'm going to scan that guy first, and I simply scan the barcode. And I'm scanning one of these data matrix codes here, and you can have whatever barcode format you like. I'm just going to back out and do that again because I was showing you a barcode and you missed the fanciness on the screen. So I'm going to scan that barcode again. And what it does is it finds it in the order, and it shows me a picture of that item. And that's handy if you're doing your own barcoding because it showed me a pair of speakers there, but I've got a bunch of bananas in my hand. I know I've got a problem with the barcode, and I can correct it. And then it just asks me how many I picked for shipping, and I just say 10, and we're good to go. Simple as that. I've now picked that product, and I physically scanned that item. So I've physically verified that I'm shipping the right item. I'm not going to be able to, pick and ship the wrong item because I'm physically scanning it, right? And the same thing for the other item. I could go ahead and scan that barcode for that LS2, or let's say that item doesn't have a barcode on it, and I'm never going to put a barcode on that type of item for whatever reason, right? So I could just select that line with the arrow keys on the keypad, or tap the screen, hit enter, and specify, the quantity that I'm picking and shipping for that without actually even scanning a barcode. Okay. Now this works for shipping, it works for receiving, it works for inventory counts on WMS Express, and with Warehouse Insight, you can use it for any operation within the warehouse. So pretty simple. That's all I've done. And then at the end, I simply come in here, I can hit post, that posts that order, out the door it goes, it can print my packing slip and all that kind of stuff, and we're done. So that's one option. Right from the handheld device, I can execute the entire shipping process for that particular sales order. Okay, very quick and easy to do. Now, you're thinking, well, I don't have barcodes and I don't want to be touching the screen and all that kind of stuff. So this barcode sheet you see here that I'm using for sample scanning, any of these barcodes, guess what? We have a free tool that allows you to generate labels and print out your own barcodes for, labeling your own product. Now, ideally, your vendor does all the barcoding for you, and you've got all that set up, and you don't have to do any barcoding yourself. But if you do have to, we've got the Barcode Generator, and that's, again, a free app. You can come in, and I've got it on the separate screen here. And if we come in and look at that, these are actually the barcodes that I had on the sheet. I printed out the report that has these barcodes. But I can come in and create whatever barcodes I like in here for samples, and this is just more for testing. And we've got a whole bunch of sample reports here for the various labels, like item labels, WMIS labels, fixed asset labels, all of these different things that are available that you can also grab off our knowledge base and modify as you see fit for your own purposes. Okay, so if you need to do your own barcoding, your own labeling, we've got you covered there. We've got the free tool to actually be able to scan those barcodes and do something with them in Business Central, and you're set. Now, let's say, however, that I've gone in and I've picked the product, but I'm not going to execute that shipment on the handheld. And the reason is, I want to go out and I want to, choose a carrier to ship. I want the best price. I want the fastest delivery date, those types of things. So now I've picked this product and I've taken it to a packaging station and I want to get it out the door. So what do? Well, ideally, you'll run Dynamic Ship. And what Dynamic Ship does is it really replaces your carrier-specific software, right? So all your carrier-specific software essentially goes away and you use this screen instead, okay? And the way it works is, that order that I just, sort of picked on the handheld device, I drop it off here, and then what an employee will do at the packaging station is they've got this box that says scan here. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to scan into that box, again, using one of these little USB barcode scanners, again, for $100 or less, whatever. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the pick ticket that went out to the warehouse, and I'm going to scan the barcode on the pick ticket to identify which order I need to ship. And as soon as I do that, it brings up the order and shows me, what the order number is and everything I need to package on that. Over on the side here, it gives me the carrier that I'm supposed to use. Now you'll notice this is blank. I haven't specified a carrier. It hasn't come in from counter sales or sales order or anything like that. What I'm telling the shippers to do is just pick the best way, right? So I said best way, and that might be price, that might be delivery date, whatever they want to choose is good with me. We can also set that up so that it always just chooses the cheapest shipping method, if you like, based on certain criteria. But in this case, it's blank. Shipper gets to choose, shipper's choice. And maybe we have special instructions down at the bottom that tells them, what parameters they need to use. These special instructions come off the order as well. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff here, the address I'm shipping to, all of those sorts of things. All right, so all I did again was I just scanned the order to bring it up. I can also look up the order from a list or type it in or whatever I like. But I just went beep, brought up the order to ship, and now I'm ready to ship it. And now there's a few different ways you can do that. If you want to get really fancy, I could rescan all of the items that I've picked to do that secondary verification that we are shipping the right product. So if you don't want to use something like WMS Express or Warehouse Insight to do your picking, but you still want that verification step, I don't have to use a scanner to do the picking. I just scan the barcodes when I'm shipping. Or you may not ever want to scan the item barcodes, and you can just manually enter the quantities that you're shipping or whatever you like. In my case, I'm going to do sort of a very simple scenario where everything I'm shipping here is going into one box. And I have 6 different standard box sizes that I use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a barcode that references a specific box size, and I'm going to say, I'm packing everything into my medium-sized box, whatever that is. Those barcodes are generated from within Dynamic Ship. So you say, here's my 6 or 7 different box sizes. I get 6 or 7 different barcodes, and I grab one of those barcodes, and I scan it, and I say I'm using my 2x1x1 box in this case. So I scan that barcode, and what it does is immediately on the screen, you can see it says it's processing the carrier label. And what it's doing, what it did, because we had it set to best way, what it did was it went out and looked at all the carriers that I have access to, right? And these we have, like 80 different parcel carriers, and we have a whole bunch of LTL carriers that are going to be available soon, a couple hundred LTL carriers. It's gone out online using my account number, my negotiated rates with the carriers, and it's brought back what I'm going to pay for that shipment and the delivery days and all those sorts of things. Okay, so I've got FedEx and UPS here, but I could have USPS and DHL and everybody else that I've set up. And the rate price here, by the way, is what the customer is going to pay us. So you can set up rules that give, in this case, free freight, or you do markups, or you do flat rates, or handling fees, or whatever. You can set all those rules up because it's automatically going to add that cost onto the sales order for us. Right? We don't have to manage that at all ourselves. At any rate, I'm going to choose this FedEx 2-day here. And what it's going to do at that point, it's simply going to print my FedEx label on my printer. You can sort of see in the background here, I've got a Zebra printer, and it would print out on that. I'm going to set it up to do a print preview so you can see it. And it's not rocket magic. You've got a shipping label from FedEx. You slap it on the box, out the door it goes, and you've completed your shipping. All right. So it's really as simple as that. So what we've done so far is we've gone through, we entered an order, we executed the pick on the handheld device, we came over to shipping, and we used this interface to actually go out and choose a carrier, print the carrier labels, add the customer's price onto the sales order. And I should mention, we also sent the customer an email to tell them their shipment was on the way. So if I'm the customer and I log into my Gmail account as an example, right? So I go to Gmail, and here's an email from you to me, and it says, "Hey, Ian." Well, we'll pretend I'm Ian for now. Your stuff's on the way, and we shipped it FedEx and everything else. So the content of this email you can set to whatever you like. But the nice thing is it gives us this tracking link. When I click on that, this takes the customer to a page that has your logo on it, your branding, your links, all of that sort of thing. So that's how you get your marketing guys to pay for your shipping software. All right, so there's a whole bunch of stuff we do in Dynamics Ship beyond what I've shown you. There's customs, we can handle international shipments, we can do options, we can do third-party billing, all sorts of things. If you want more information about that, again, get in touch with us. So just a quick recap, we entered that order through counter sales, processed it, shipped it, and we're good. If you want to use the WMS Express for receiving or inventory counts, again, you can do that. And we also talked a little bit about Doc Extender and those sorts of things. A lot of that stuff I've shown you today is no cost. It's free. You can install it. You can run it if you're running Business Central. If you're on Nav or on-premises Business Central, this stuff still runs. It's just, you're going to need the full version of Warehouse Insight and those sorts of things to have it work. Okay. With that, let's go back and finish this sucker off. So if you need more information, feel free to get a hold of us at the website. Just go to dmsiworks.com and poke around in there, or contact your partner. Your partner will be able to help you out with quotes or questions. If they don't have the answer directly, they'll get in touch with us. If your partner is not one of our resellers, again, feel free to contact us. There's also a link there under resources for upcoming events. So there's webinars that we hold, and we have 2 or 3 a week usually on various products if you're interested. And we also have on-demand demos. So there's recorded videos there under the resources, under webcasts. You can go in, detailed webinars on a lot of the products, and you can check them out there. And finally, the knowledge base, where you can get a lot more information. So if you do go out and install WMS Express or the trial for counter sales or product configurator or any of the products, and you need more information on how that stuff works, you can simply go to our knowledge base, and in here we've got information about all the products, and you can jump in and figure out how to set them up and try them out and get them going. So for example, WMS Express has the full user guide and everything else. If you watch the video on WMS Express on the website, it will walk you through kind of how you set it up and everything, and it's quick and easy. All right, with that, would like to thank everybody for going through that, and we're going to have a bit of a Q&A session here now with DynamicsCon, and so stick around, ask any questions you have, and hopefully we'll be chatting in a second here. Thanks. Hey, good morning, or I guess possibly afternoon for everybody out there. This is Mark here. And I've got with me Brian Neufeld, who if you've watched any of our online videos on our YouTube channel, you may recognize as well. And we're going to go through whatever questions you have. So there's been a few questions asked in the question box so far, and we're going to, cover off some of the things that you might be too shy to ask or something like that. So let's get started with a couple of questions from counter sales. Unless Brian, you want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah, no, hi everyone. Welcome to the conference, and glad you made it to our session here. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, we've got a number of questions here, and I'm going to pose a few of my own questions to you, Mark, once we get through the ones that are posted in the chat. So why don't you take it away?
All right. So there was a couple questions there on counter sales, specifically payment types and things like that. So let me just bring that up here. So one of them is, can a cash customer be used to post a sales order invoice at the same time? Absolutely. So the question was more around, Shopify or e-commerce orders brought in. We can execute that payment, generate the invoice, all of those sorts of things. Now, again, that payment processing is not something we currently do. That's something in the cards, but, actually going out and validating the credit card and everything else. Now, Shopify probably does that for you, so they've got the payment and everything else. We could bring that in, post it. You've got a record of the payment and all of those sorts of things. So yes, that is definitely possible. And then another question on deposits, which is, if you're taking a deposit, it can be posted to the bank as sort of the balancing account, but it also does get posted against effectively that contact. Right, so you have a default cash customer, and then you have contacts within that cash customer. So you don't need a customer record, like a new customer for every person you want to take a deposit from. They're just going to be a contact. But we track that deposit down to that contact and that sales order. So yeah, we'll post it to the bank or whatever balancing account you have for that. We'll track it against that customer that's coming in, like physical customer, and it's stored in Business Central against contacts and sales orders. So I guess what I'm saying is you don't need a full-blown customer in order to take a deposit. It just has to be a cash customer and a contact with their email and name and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that answers the question. Another one that just came in, can you disable the image? Yeah, absolutely. So now when we're talking about WMS Express, it doesn't have all the same options as the Warehouse Insight product. But yeah, if you don't want to turn on that picture, we don't turn it on. Or if you don't have a picture on the item card, it won't show up anyway. But yeah, that's an option you can turn on or off. The basic configuration on the handheld devices is effectively the same between our full product, the Warehouse Insight, and WMS Express. So yeah, a lot of that same configuration applies there. If you go to WMSExpress.com, it has a breakdown of all the things that are supported in WMS Express versus the full version. So I think I answered that question. If it doesn't have an image, it doesn't show up. Now, if you go to the full version of Warehouse Insight, you also have the ability to take photos and upload them, and they'll automatically set the item picture based on the photo you take. So you could be out in receiving or in the warehouse, take a photo of that item, and it'll actually put it into Business Central or Nav for you. Okay. Kimberly, you're my favorite person today. She says I'm awesome, so I'll have to let my wife know. But my wife's actually mad at me because the other day I introduced her as my ex-girlfriend and her daughter, which is technically true. She was my ex-girlfriend, and she's not anymore, but she didn't like that. So anyway, all right. Now, Brian, was there anything else that you saw come through that
well, there was a few comments. One is, maybe since we're on the topic of WMS Express and Warehouse Insight, maybe could you just comment maybe on the difference between, or when someone when it would be sufficient to use the free version, the WMS Express, versus moving into something more extensive like Warehouse Insight?
All right, good question. So the WMS Express focuses, I think I mentioned in that video that we just watched, focuses on, receiving, shipping, or picking, and inventory count. So if you need more than that, like you need palletization and, ad hoc moves and all sorts of stuff, then you go to Warehouse Insight. Or if you're running on premises, either NAV or Business Central, you need the full Warehouse Insight. If you're Business Central Cloud, what I almost always recommend is start with WMS Express, right? It's quick and easy to set up. We didn't show it in the session you just watched, but it literally is, from the time you install it from AppSource till you're up and running on the little device, it's about 5 minutes or less. If you get the devices from us. If you don't, it's maybe 6 minutes because you got to install the app yourself. So go with WMS Express if you're on Business Central Cloud. Try it out. There's no reason that you would ever have to pay for warehouse management if you just need the basic shipping, receiving, inventory accounts, right? There's lots of apps out on AppSource for this stuff, and most of them don't do much more than what WMS Express does. And just go WMS Express. If it's not enough for you, then look at Warehouse Insight or one of the other options. I don't know. I rambled there. I don't know if I answered all those questions.
Yeah, no, it's good. So sticking with the WMS side of things, Rich is asking about the hardware solutions for those apps. If they're what are their hardware options? Are they specific, proprietary? What's available to the users?
Yeah, good question. So really, anything that's running Android 5 or newer is technically supported. Now we like to focus on the three big guys, which is Zebra, Honeywell, and DataLogic, and our sort of two primary go-to guys are typically DataLogic and Honeywell, just for the pricing and the value you get from those guys. But Zebra is great too. We like those because we know it works. We've had people buy sort of cheap $500 devices from Asia and stuff like that, and it's a huge pain sometimes to get them working because there's no documentation on how you get the barcode scanning and all sorts of stuff. So we prefer sort of the big guys, the brand names, but it really doesn't matter. You can run it on a cell phone and use the camera to scan, things like that. That's all okay. But again, little guys like this, if you buy the hardware from us, you can go to the wmsexpress.com site to look at what the hardware options are. This little MMRK guy, that's under $600. Rugged scanner, great little unit, right? So I would go with that.
We've got a licensing question here. Is it possible to run the apps under a specific user with full license so that real users and team member licenses can't still be used?
So yes, it depends. It depends on which app we're talking about. So if you're doing on premises, the counter sales will run under a team member license. In cloud, it won't. It's just there's a difference between an on-premises team member versus a cloud team member. When we're talking about the WMS Express or Dynamic Ship and things like that, typically a team member isn't going to be sufficient. So on WMS Express, because we're writing to tables, like sales line or those sorts of things, the team member just doesn't have permissions to scan my eyeball there. A team member just doesn't have permissions to do it. So typically on a scanner type device, it's going to be a device license if it's shared, or you're going to have a full user license to do that. Okay, so again, it depends on the application. We didn't talk about things like the configurator. That can be used with a team member license if you're doing sales quotes and things like that. It really just depends on what you're doing within Business Central. And I see another one pop up there. Rather than you have them read them to me, Brian, I'll just answer them as I see them.
Hey,
that's
all
okay.
right.
But if you want to interrupt me and tell me I'm not to lunch, that's cool too. So Doc Extender and SharePoint. Yes, Doc Extender actually does work with SharePoint natively. So you just have to go in, do the setup, and you'll be able to store everything in SharePoint. It's kind of nice the way it creates the structure in SharePoint. It's not obfuscated. Like when you go into SharePoint, you'll actually see, oh, it's for this company, sales order, and there's a sales order number and all the documents attached to it. So it actually creates a nice structure in SharePoint for you to use. And the beautiful thing about that is once it hits SharePoint, you can have Power Automate workflows and all sorts of stuff to do things. So we've had people use it for like engineering change request workflows and QC workflows and all sorts of stuff just by attaching that in there. If you're using Warehouse Insight, you also have the ability to take photos, and Doc Extender will attach them into Business Central as well. And you could use that to kick off custom business logic and all sorts of things. Like I take a photo of damaged product when I receive it, or a piece of paper that comes in or whatever, and we can trigger things off that as well. And you do have the ability to extend what DocExtend does to a certain extent. Yes, Wi-Fi stuff. So Wi-Fi, yeah, we want good Wi-Fi, right? You need good Wi-Fi in your facility. And a lot of people ask, well, can I go offline and things like that? WMS Express doesn't have that offline mode. Warehouse Insight has the offline mode. But we don't want people doing stuff offline. We don't want to scan something, and then when it reconnects and uploads and everything else, tells you did something wrong. And now you got to backtrack the last 10 minutes worth of work to fix that. That sucks. Or if you're receiving and you try to over-receive and it allows you, and then after you upload everything, it yells at you because you weren't allowed to do that. We don't want that. We want you to get that real-time feedback. And I won't say Wi-Fi is easy, but it's not hard anymore, right? There should be really very few excuses for bad Wi-Fi in a warehouse now. Like, I know there's examples where you've got a very insulated cooler and it has trouble getting Wi-Fi signal in and things like that. But most of the time, you should have good Wi-Fi in the facility. And the question on the licensing was WMS Express. And if you have the advanced warehousing turned on, like directed pick and put away turned on in Business Central, technically you can use a team member license for some of that, but probably you're going to run into limitations very quickly with the team member. So because we're communicating directly with Business Central, we're writing to the Business Central tables in real time, it's going to be very dependent on what those licenses can do in Business Central. And team member just can't do stuff. That's what it boils down to. So device license is better. Device license, it's $40 US for the cloud version of a device license, and then you can have as many people as you want share that license per device, and you're good to go. Okay.
Can you comment on, or just maybe reiterate the free apps versus the paid apps? Maybe just give an overview of that.
Yeah. So what you saw in that video there, that presentation. Some of those were free, some of them were paid. WMS Express, of course, is free. DocExtender is free. The Barcode Generator, where we generated those barcode sheets for scanning, is free, and you'd use that to build your own reports. Did I talk about print node in there? I can't remember. Oh, it's been so long ago, like half an hour. So on the print node stuff, that's the cloud printing. All of that stuff is free, and you can install it off AppSource. There's no registration. We're not gonna get you to give us the name of your firstborn or anything to sign up for that stuff. The paid apps, we have a whole bunch of paid apps that we didn't necessarily talk about. Now, Dynamic Ship is paid, though just as a spoiler, we're going to have a free version of Dynamic Ship coming out as well, where you'll just be able to get all your rates and labels and everything right from a sales order with no cost at all, other than what you pay UPS or whatever. Anyway, that's coming. But Dynamic Ship is a paid app. Warehouse Insight, the full-blown guy, is a paid app. And, one of the things you can do, I think I mentioned this, is with WMS Express and Dynamic Ship, that's actually a very low-cost solution, right? Dynamic Ship isn't very expensive. We don't license it by user. It's just licensed by facility. So you get Dynamic Ship and you have 3 packing stations, and you use WMS Express, and you got a full-blown, warehouse management solution for very, very little money every month. It's pretty slick. All right. I've definitely had too much caffeine because I'm rambling a little bit now.
No, that's good.
Yeah, you only say that because you have to.
Yeah, well, just speaking of Dynamic Ship, can you maybe just talk a little bit about, the number of carriers that are available, as well as, maybe touch on LTL a little bit?
Sure. So, we covered off that a bit. We have all sort of the big name carriers, of course, UPS, DHL, FedEx, international carriers, Purolator, Canada Post in Canada, a bunch of international carriers. You just have to be careful. If you are international and you're using, something that's not one of those big guys, just check with us, verify that it is fully supported, that, all the services you need are supported and everything else. But, there's like 100 carriers or something like that we support on the parcel side. On the LTL side, for Business Central 16 and up, we also have LTL support. Technically, it's in beta testing right now. It should be released shortly. but that allows you to do rate shopping across close to 200 LTL carriers, primarily North American, but guys like TNT and FedEx Freight and all those kinds of guys as well. And so now you can do rate shopping and schedule pickups and all that kind of stuff right from within Business Central for all of your LTL stuff. You don't have to go to their websites or phone them up or use third-party logistics provider like a broker to get your rates. You just do it from within Business Central. And you use Warehouse Insight to create your pallets if you like, or Dynamic Ship to create your pallets, and bang, you've got your rates and everything, and you're good to go. So that LTL rate shopping and everything else, that'll be available here shortly. But if you happen to be on Business Central Cloud and you're using Dynamic Ship already and you want to test it out, let us know. We'll be happy to provide it for you.
Okay, well, that's getting close to the end of our questions. I'll let people, if there's any last few questions, to pop them into the chat there. And while you're doing that, I'll just mention a couple of resources that Mark had already mentioned. We do have the on-demand demos on our site. You can always go and take a look at that for more information. We are also quite active on the social media side of things too. So if you're a Twitter user or Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, please go and search us up on those platforms and make sure you subscribe. We're often posting new videos on the YouTube channel with different apps and different features, this sort of thing. So make sure you take advantage of that. The deeper dive demos, or talk to someone about solutions. The deeper dive demos, if you just go to our website, the dmsiworks.com, you'll see on the very top nav, there's just a button called demo, and you can click on that, and that actually goes into the full-blown demos. They're typically anywhere around 35 to 50 minutes, and you can take a look at those there. Have any products coming down the road? We always have products coming down the road.
Yeah,
Do you want to comment?
Excited. So yeah, we've actually got like 10 different things sitting on the shelf right now that we just haven't had, the resources to get out on AppSource or to get published, even for the on-prem side of things. But I will mention a few that are coming down the road. So obviously the products keep improving all the time. We have new releases every couple months usually on Dynamic Ship, Warehouse Insight, all those guys. I did mention one that's coming, which is the free version of for shipping. So that will be later this year. And again, it's going to be, you install it and you can ship from a sales order very quickly and easily. It'll generate your UPS or USPS labels. So it'll be those two carriers only. And allow you to do rate shopping across those services and everything else. And that'll be no cost. And, it's kind of a double-edged sword. We've actually had people that are using our paid Warehouse Insight product and have stopped paying because they just went to WMS Express. And I actually think that's great because it means we have a decent, free offering for people to use. I expect we'll see the same thing on the free Dynamic Ship guide. Anyway, Dynamic Ship, the free version, whatever we call it, will be out later this year. On the counter sales, which you saw on the thing, we also have a service module coming up. So obviously Business Central has its own service module, but it's, it works in certain situations. But if you're running sort of a service counter where people are coming in, dropping stuff off for service or bringing their car in or their bike or whatever, those types of things, there's nothing really good out there. So the counter sales is going to be extended to do service as well. We also have with the booking calendar and all sorts of good stuff. We also have an asset maintenance thing, a light asset maintenance thing. I don't know when that's coming out, but hopefully this year. The big one, saved it to last because it's cool, is our scheduling product. So we've had it for a long time, like decades really, called MX APS. If you're in production, this allows you to do production scheduling automatically, right? So it'll go out and it'll calculate your production schedule and all that kind of good stuff. We've had it for on-prem and even Business Central Cloud for a while, but now it's going to be built right into Business Central and available on subscription. And it's something that everybody that's doing manufacturing really needs. We do have the free scheduler out there already. So there's another free tool, the graphical scheduler, that allows you to do everything graphically. We have that automated scheduler that's coming out shortly. All right. Some other questions. Customized labels in Dynamic Ship. Yeah, so in Dynamic Ship, the label that we get back from the carrier is actually from the carrier. So it comes back sort of pre-formatted, but it is just a Business Central report. So you can put your own logo on there. You can put your own reference information. You can do a bunch of stuff to overlay information on top of that carrier label. So that's generally what we do. We don't have a label designer or anything like that. We're getting that label right back from the carrier, and that means it's pre-certified. Everything's good to go. You're not going to have any issues with it. And if you want to customize it, like put your branding and stuff on it, you can do that as well. Okay, you could print it on the default is a 4x6 label. You could do a 4x7 label and put your own stuff on there, or put your logo, that type of thing. But it's just a Business Central report you can customize. Question on iPhone: we don't support iOS, unfortunately, mainly because everything in the warehouse today is Android. It used to be all Windows, now it's all Android. Everything you see is Android. All the manufacturers, that's what they're doing, is Android. So Android is really the 99% of the market when it comes to barcode scanning. So yeah, currently we don't support iOS. Graphical scheduler. Yes, so that's a good question. There's a question on, can you use it for just production or anything else? We do actually have some videos on our knowledge base and on YouTube that go through how you can plot anything you like on that graphical scheduler. You can extend it to do whatever you want. If you have custom tables in Business Central you want to schedule, great, throw them on there. You can schedule anything or graph anything you want and do whatever you like. If you want to get fancy, you can add a code unit in there, and you can add drag and drop and all that kind of stuff. So it does have support for jobs and production orders, and then you can also schedule anything you like on there. Now that when you do anything you like, it doesn't do the drag and drop unless you write your own code to handle the drag and drop, but you can visualize any information in Business Central on that schedule. Check out the YouTube channel or our knowledge base, and it's got a video on what's new, I think the video is, in the latest version, and it goes through how to set that up. So question on how does Warehouse Insight handle bill of ladings and packing slips? So the packing slip, the default one we use is the standard Business Central or NAV packing slip. The bill of lading, there's a bill of lading report that comes with the system. I call it a sample because almost everybody takes it and customizes it, but it's just a standard NAV or Business Central report that you can come in and customize to your needs, right? But brings in all the data for the bill of lading already, and you just change the terms and conditions and the logo or whatever you want to change in there. Question on truck scheduling. Maybe. We've had questions about doing route planning and truck scheduling, and we can do that. We may do that. What's cool is with MX APS, which is the scheduler, we actually have customers that schedule their loading bays and the receiving based on the production orders and the pick tickets and everything else in the system. So it's not just for scheduling production. We can actually schedule receipt of goods for just-in-time receipts. We can schedule loading bays for shipping because we know when the product is going to be completed. We can all of that stuff with MX APS as well. Hi, Richard. Nice to see you online. Let's see what else. Wow, that's really nice. I think that's it, and I think we're being kicked off. I think we're out of time. Really appreciate everybody for staying on and listening in and asking questions. It's always nice to chat. Maybe one day soon we'll be able to do it live in person again and meet. But thanks everyone. Hope you have a great rest of the conference at DynamicsCon here, and hopefully we'll be chatting again soon.
Yeah, and don't forget we do have our virtual booth at DynamicsCon here. So if you want to chat, you can always head over to our booth and we can chat there. You can always hit up our site as well, and you'll see that we've got a live chat in the bottom right. That's not a bot, that's actually me. I handle those chats. So if you want to reach out and have a one-on-one chat there, you can, and I can always connect you with other people and resources if you're looking for something specific.
Great. All right. Thanks everyone.
Okay, thank you.